for coming out in the weeknight, which is not so simple, and for other members that were happy to join us. The topic for tonight is the lost wisdom of Yerushalayim. When I say the lost wisdom of Yerushalayim, can everybody hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay. This is a very, very central theme for the month of Tammuz and Av, and maybe the most important theme of Tisha B'Av. So I want to thank you for making me give this shiur, because I learned more from learning with you than if I would be by myself. And I discovered some extraordinary, extraordinary things. First, I want to say the following. Who is the central figure, the wisdom figure of the book of Yaacov and Tisha B'Av? Who is that person? Yirmiyahu Hanavi, correct? Does everybody know what happened to Yirmiyahu after the Churban? So we know that he was exiled to Bavel originally. In fact, he spends his first years there. However, because the king of Yerushalayim, Tzidkiyahu, wanted him killed, and everybody wanted him killed, because he was saying the truth that nobody wanted to hear, that Yerushalayim was imminently going to be destroyed. And that's how the book of Yaacov came about. If you look in the Navi, and book of Malachim, it says that he sent a message, a scroll, to the Melech 12 years before the Churban. And that king was foolish enough to rebel against Nebuchadnezzar, who was the power of the world. And although Jews thought always that they were the superpower of the world, right, up until our exile, but now maybe we're beginning to think again, Baruch Hashem, which is natural, it was the wrong thing, and it wasn't the Ratzon Hashem. Hashem had decided that it was time to enter a new stage of history. What was that stage of history? That would be a stage of history which brought the wisdom of the Torah out of Yerushalayim to two other primary locations. Where did the Chachma of Yerushalayim get exiled to? Bavel, in the figure of whom? Who were the Chachamim of Yerushalayim, among others, who were taken there, and even later on they spread further all the way to the court of Achashverosh. So who were some of these people, some of these individuals? Mordechai, all the way in Shushan Abiram, Asher Heglam Yerushalayim, in the Galus of Yechonia, right? So he went rather early. Daniel goes where? To Bavel, and he serves which kings? And not just serves them, but rises to world prominence. Notice that the two Jews that I just mentioned, Daniel, serviced the leaders of the entire world, that they ruled the world. Nebuchadnezzar ruled the world, and some say Achashverosh did, or at least a good portion, 127 Medinot. And who was their trusted advisor that they listened to everything that they said? The ruler of the world, Nebuchadnezzar, the ruler of the world, Achashverosh. And of course, an even more important ruler in the middle, named Koresh, who we know Daniel was his final and greatest stop was at the court of Koresh. And what does Koresh do in the very first year of his reign? In the very first year that he became king of the universe, he gives the Jewish people the permission to return to Yerushalayim and rebuild the Beis HaMikdash. Why? Because he understood from his advisor, Daniel, and how he had inspired him and said, all of the greatness and all of the wisdom that's being put at the service of the world comes from where? The temple in Yerushalayim. So when I speak about the lost wisdom of Yerushalayim, we have to speak about the following individuals. Yirmiyahu Hanavi, who goes into Bavel initially, but asks right away to go back to Eretz Yisrael, because he doesn't want to be stuck in Bavel. So he returns to Eretz Yisrael with the last and final Jewish ruler, whose name is, we speak about him the day after Rosh Hashanah, Gedaliah ben Achikam, the last official, certified Davidic ruler of Jews in the land of Israel. And what happens? He's murdered. And his successor says it's not safe anymore. There is no Malchus in Yerushalayim. The Chachma of Yerushalayim needs to leave Yerushalayim for the time being. And where does he go? To Mitzrayim. In Mitzrayim, he meets up with whom? So, the Ramah, and this is brought by many sources, Jewish and not Jewish. In fact, Lahavdil Elf Abdalos, the entire church wisdom speaks about the fact that the original thinkers and great intellects, the Chachamim of Athens, who lived where? In Alexandria, Egypt, eventually. But they were already, Mitzrayim was the seat of Chachma, were influenced and met. Who influenced who? Yirmiyahu met Plato. Okay. And there's a lot written about this. There's a certain scholar, actually. I got two things here. One is Theodore Feder's article, Solomon, Socrates, and Aristotle. This just came out in 2008. And then there's another scholar who points out that there is nothing original in the wisdom of the three great minds of the West, which of course were taken by Christianity as the basis of their authority, which was false, and which was a corruption of the original wisdom. They just needed it because they needed something to hang their hats on, because they couldn't just take the wisdom of Yerushalayim alone. Why not? Because that would mean that they would have to return the Jews and the Beis HaMikdash to Yerushalayim, which was the one thing that they didn't want to do. So they said that, where did all this wisdom come from? And there were three primary teachers. Each was a student of the other, and you have to know this historically. Socrates was the teacher of Plato. Plato was the teacher of Aristotle. Aristotle was the teacher of Alexander the Great. Okay? All of this happened, right, when? During the time of that era when the Beit HaMikdash and the Jewish people were still extant in the world, okay? So, understand that we're bridging the first and second Beit HaMikdash, so listen carefully. Yirmiyahu was exiled from Yerushalayim. He ends up in Egypt. In Egypt, he becomes the mentor of a young man named Plato, who was a teenager. And by the way, this proves that the historical dating of the Beis HaMikdash is not what the Goyim say. They say 586 BCE. We say, according to Chazal, 420 before the Common Era, because we know that there was a certain amount of time. The first Beis HaMikdash stood for 410 years. The second Beis HaMikdash, according to Chazal, stood for 420 years. So if you put the numbers together our way, then Yirmiyahu's life and Plato's life coincide. The last years of Yirmiyahu's life and his nevuah, which terminated that at that point. So all the wisdom of Yerushalayim, okay, had to come into contact with two foreign capitals. And I'll take this one step further, and I'm giving you the framework, and now I'm going to go rebuild it, okay? Because I want to give you the big picture. This is the big picture. Who goes to the west? Yirmiyahu. Who goes to the east? Daniel. Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, right? Mordechai and Esther. And whose world does that become? Geographically, ideologically, historically, politically? Whose world is that? Iraq and Iran and Syria. Which religion is that? Islam. Okay, Alexandria, which is connected to Greece, which is connected to Rome, which is connected to France, which is connected to Germany, which is connected to the West in general. Which religion is that? Yirmiyahu brought the Chachmas of Torah to the Western Christian world. Daniel, who's buried where? In ancient Shushan, is a Muslim shrine. Do you know that?
Muslims start in the 6th century.
Correct. But before they were Muslims, there was a tradition that they had. Islam was based on all of the Jewish prophets. Every single one. And that's why the shrine of Daniel is holy to them.
Which is why they named their sons Beginnings.
Well, they then, again, the same thing as Christianity, they then took it off in false direction. But the makor of their chachma is authentic. Hence the Rambam says that the purpose for Christianity and the purpose of Islam was to prepare the world for Mashiach. Because at least it gave them a foundation of chachma on which they could build. What was that chachma? The chachma of Tanakh, of the Nevi'im. Okay? It does not include Torah Shabbal Peh. It only includes the Nevuah of Torah Shabbat. Alexander the Great's advent in the year 350 was exactly concurrent with the termination of Nevuah 50 years into Binyan Bayit Sheni. Okay? So, the meetings during, after Bayit Rishon, we had the contact between Yirmiyahu and Plato. Plato is the teacher of Aristotle. Aristotle is the teacher of Alexander the Great. Who meets Alexander the Great? Shimon HaTzadik, who's Mishiyare Knesset HaGdola, and that's that. So the period of the Anshe Knesset HaGdola, which is the period of Torah Shabbal Peh, is the beginning, is the end of Nevuah, the beginning of a new period called Yemos HaMoshiach. Because the Gemara in Sanhedrin tells us, this is what we speak about, the lost wisdom of Torah, that the world is destined to exist, says the Gemara in Daf Tzadik Zayin. How many years? 6,000 years. The first 2,000 years, what are they? Tohu vavohu. There's no Torah. It's choshech. There's no wisdom. The wisdom of the Torah and of Hashem is not known. Okay, except there was a tradition that was lost. Then there were 2,000 years of Torah, beginning with whom? Avram Avinu, in the year, he was born 1948. But he doesn't become the real teacher of Torah until he's like what? Till 52 years later, when he's already well known to the world. Because at least at 40 he started. So if you want to look at it, 1988, 90 was when he began. By the way, the year 1990 also in our Lefi Svirehem represents the Hebrew year 5750. And it's a time where we cross over to the final Messianic period, which is the overlap between Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David. Okay, you got me? That happened in 1990. In other words, for all those years, we were in the period of Mashiach, but it was all what? Mashiach ben Yosef. When does Mashiach ben David start in earnest? Well, it starts in the year 1240, which represents the year 5000. Because the last 1,000 years of history is the second half of the 2,000 years of Mashiach. You with me?
Say it again.
The 2,000 years of Torah ended in the year 240 with the closing of the Mishnah, with the end of the oral tradition. That's it. Finished. And now we're in the period of Mashiach. So from 240 to 1240, 1,000 years that were related to only Mashiach ben Yosef, and the truth is, it was a period in which Mashiach could almost never come. It was not the period of Mashiach ben David. But the next 1,000 years, which is where we're at, starting in 1240 to 2240, which is the absolute deadline, but we're really there now. is a tkufa of Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David. Split it in half, and you get the year 1740, which is coordinates with what? The founding of America, the breaking of church and state, which is the beginning of the era of emancipation of the Jews, of notions of liberty, right? And you should call liberty. And the founding fathers of America based their wisdom on what? The wisdom of the Torah. The Liberty Bell says, Ukrachem Dror, the founding fathers of America were religious, biblical people who appreciated the wisdom of the Torah, and many of them spoke Hebrew. Who went to Yale over here?
The universities also had Hebrew.
The universities had Hebrew, right? Yale, they taught it. Why? So they said, why are you teaching it? He said, well, when we go to heaven and we hear the angels speaking Hebrew, we want to know what they're going to be saying. So the founding of America, and I'm not, nothing against, I know there's a lot of English people here and so on. I'm not putting down the British Empire. They're eventually come around. But America was the best thing that ever happened to Britain. That's what they need to understand. Even today, if you'll understand what we're saying, without America, Britain is in deep, deep trouble. The closer they get to America, the better off they are. The further away they get from Europe, the closer they get to America, the better off they are. So they have a schus. And Britain was given a tremendous schus to do what? To be the ones to turn Eretz Yisrael over to Jewish people. Not a small thing. You know why? What happened to all the material I prepared here, Midrashim and everything? I'm not going to get to it. It's because they're the last kingdom of Edom. They're the last true monarchy in the world, of the Christian world. They're the last ones. There is no other monarchy. But as I've said in some of our shiurim, that they're done. Their monarchy is over. The reason it's over is because it has become common. They've married commoners. And their children are therefore no longer circumcised. Unlike the previous generations who all circumcised themselves because they said, we are the real holders of the Davidic throne, and they weren't wrong. Because Yerushalayim is in exile to Rome, which is the Christian world, and England broke away from Rome and became the last real monarchy in the Christian world, and therefore they were chosen to become an empire that ruled the whole world, right? Whole world. Isn't that true? And it was called Elizabeth. Sun never sets in the British Empire. What year are we talking about? We're talking about the late 1800s and the early 1900s, right? She was the empress of India. She was, but they had everything. Egypt, India. What didn't they have? Colonies, Hong Kong, right? Canada, Australia, New Zealand. Thank you, Canadians. Hashem did that because it's the same thing as Koresh saying that the Jews have to go back. And the credit of the English Empire, they had a few leaders who saw themselves as taking up the biblical role of Koresh, including Lord, what's his name? Balfour, and also Lloyd George, who were ardent Christian Zionists, because they knew they based themselves on Tanakh. And when the Goyim base themselves on Tanakh, they're right on target. The question is, where are they going to take it? Okay, now, let's go back to Chachmas Yerushalayim. What really is the difference? We can go into, we can show you how everything Plato said and everything that was learned is based on a Torah theory, but that's going to be another class, okay? I don't have time for that right now. I'll give you one taste. You ready? I'm sorry, I can't help myself. Plato, anybody know a little philosophy here? You know Plato? Does the name of Plato's Republic? He spoke about creation happening based on forms. Do you know that about forms? Plato. He said an interesting thing. He said, how did God create the world? He said there were these forms that God used to create the world. Okay, does that sound familiar to you? How would you translate it into a Jewish or Kabbalistic concept? What are the forms?
The letters.
The letters. And what else? The spheros. Aleph, Beis, Gimel, which is a very important theme in Eicha. Because Eicha, that gets to the point. The core of our Chachma is the letters of the Aleph, Beis, with which Hashem created the world. You don't want to know what Chachma is? It breaks down to the Aleph, Beis, Gimel. So, when Yerushalayim and Chachma, which is the Beis Hamikdash, are about to be destroyed, what is the framework of the destruction? The story of destruction is broken down into its elemental parts, Aleph, Beis, Gimel. That's why it's Eicha Yashra Bagad. Here, Rabbi Am. Rabasi Bagoyim. Right? What does it mean, Rabasi Bagoyim? The Medrash asks, the Medrash Rabba Eicha asks, you just said, let's read it together. Eicha Yashra Bagad. Right? Ir Rabasiam. Use the word Rab. Great city, right? Rabasiba. Wait, Sarasiba Medinos, right? So what is the word Rabasi Bagoyim? It's redundant. The Medrash asks. You already told me you're a great people. Rabasi Am. Why do you say again Rabasi Bagoyim? Answers the Medrash. Rabasi Bedeos. Now that's another word for Chachma, wisdom. Deot. I'm going to give you a word for that. Philosophy. Wisdom. Teaching. Okay? What does Plato do? Havdalah Vadalas, after meeting Yirmiyahu, he goes back to his hometown of Athens and he establishes an academy. Oh, gee, that sounds familiar. What is the academy? That's right. A Beit Midrash. A Beit Midrash. And there is an entire discussion, and we're studying this in our other shiur, in our Monday night shiur, about the wise men of Rome, of Athens, who were part of the Roman Empire, which was the Academy of Athens, the first university, the first seat of Chachma outside of Yerushalayim. Okay, you want to understand? That's why. And Alexandria of Egypt was Philo, right? Philo of Alexandria. He loved what? Wisdom. What does he translate into Greek? Torah. That's the story of Targum Shivim. Right? Shivim. Because Shivim Umos Ha'olam. The Chachma of the Torah, the Aleph Beis, is being translated from Aleph Beis Gimel, where the root of Chachma is, into Alpha Beta Gamma, which is a diminution of Chachma, but it's something for them, a tashdit, a foundation of Chachma. What I don't want to go into it now, but there's a Gemara, the Gemara in Bechoros Tav Ches Amud Beis speaks about the riddles that went back and forth between Yeshua ben Chananya, who's the student of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Who's Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai in the story of Churban Yerushalayim? Who was he? He asked for three things. What does he ask for?
Yavna.
He asked for Yavna, the academy. He asked for the academy, right? Kerem, it's called a kerem. Why is it called a kerem? What's a vineyard? What is it cultivating? Chachma, which is compared to, Torah, which is compared to Yain. What is Yain b'gematria? Shivim.
50 times.
The root of all wisdom and knowledge. How many people are in the Sanhedrin? Shivim. You understand? The translation of the Torah by Philo is the attempt to learn from the wisdom of Torah and apply it in their world, which is absolutely fine, because that'll make them what they're supposed to be, good B'nai Noach, and they were on the path to that, except Christianity steered them wrong. Do you understand what happened here? Nebuchadnezzar, the Gemara tells us in Sanhedrin, praised God and understood the God of Israel had sent him, the majesty over the world, and made him his emissary to destroy the Beit HaMikdash. And they said that if he wasn't shut up, he would have said Tehillim praises greater than even David HaMelech.
Who's this?
Nebuchadnezzar. He knew God. He was completely on board. Who was his Rebbe? Daniel. He worshipped Daniel. He tried to make Daniel like a quasi-god. Daniel would have none of it. But he understood that that's where my chachma comes from. And ultimately Achashverosh understood that too. He got smart. He said, if I'm going to listen now, Aleph Beis is the seat of all chachma. That's because dibur, words, are what Hashem creates the world with. Okay? Chachma depends on the ability to articulate words and ideas. Correct? That's how we differ. That's how our intellect is expressed. Okay? Hashem created the world with the letters. What's Basar Mamoros, right? And Maimar. Okay? What's the book we go into always in the 9 days? The Sefer of Devarim. Eila HaDevarim. Dibur. Okay. Now, let's look back to the reason why the Chachma of Yerushalayim was diminished. Before I do that, let me tell you a story of the Chachma. Okay? 2 stories from the Medrash Eicha. 1. People from Atuna come to Jerusalem. Again, Athens coming to Jerusalem. I didn't make this up. This is the Medrash Eicha. And they're speaking to the wise people. And they say to them, it is said that any place, the Medrash says, that any place a Jew from Jerusalem went, they would set up a cathedra, they would set up a theater, and listen to his wisdom. Where does that remind you of? When was the ultimate time where everybody came to listen to the Jewish wisdom in Yerushalayim? Shlomo HaMelech. What does Shlomo HaMelech teach? And how does he teach? What's his most famous sefer of wisdom? Mishlei. Mishlei means what? A mashal. The greatest way, the source of wisdom is the mashal. Okay? The analogy. Or we call it like a pantomime. If you want to teach, visual aids is the best way to go. And if you want to get into somebody's head, the best way to do it is what? With stories and riddles and intellectual challenges. All of the stories of Shlomo, including the Queen of Sheba who comes to visit him, right? And tests him how? With riddles. All of these midrashim, and again, I'm just kind of doing an overview shiur. I can't get into too much detail now, but it's a one-time overview, okay? So please forgive me, or you'll come again another time. Or I'll come again another time. Bezrat Hashem. It's all about chidot and riddles. Daniel, what riddle does he figure out? The handwriting on the wall. Nachon. The ability to discover hidden wisdom goes back to the beginning of Chachmas Yisrael Begolus. Where was the first place that who was the first keeper of Jewish knowledge that was forced to go out of Eretz Yisrael? Besides Avraham. I'm not talking about Avraham. When we speak about Klal Yisrael, we're really talking about beginning with Yaacov Avinu. So who's forced to go into exile in Egypt? Yosef and Yaakov, right? What do they set up in Egypt? What does Yaakov set up in Egypt? Yeshiva and Goshen, Lahoras Lefanav Goshna, right? And he sends who to be in charge of that? Yehuda. It becomes Yerushalayim in Golus. You understand? We don't have the base of our ability to learn Torah. Lahoros Lefanav, he set up a yeshiva. But Yosef was where? In the palace. What is Yosef called? Ben Ze Kunim. What does Zakein mean? Ze Shekana Chachma. All of the Chachma that he got from the hidden wisdom, Shiva Ben Shem Ve'ever, that goes back to the original wisdom of the creation handed down from Avram Avinu and all the way back to Adam, was given over to Yosef. He's known as Safnas Paneach. What does that mean, Safnas Paneach? The revealer of secrets. How does he get to be in charge of the world?
From the dreams. Huh?
From the dreams of Paro, and more importantly, how did Rashi say? How did he get Paro to give him over the reins of power? How he had to show Paro that he was smarter than him. In what way was he smarter than him? Which language did he know?
Several languages.
He spoke all Shivim Lashon. Who else spoke all Shivim Lashon that's famous for that? Mordechai. How does Mordechai get his position? Because he knew all 70 languages. Knowing all 70 languages is a metaphor. It means the mashal. We have chachma that will service all of humanity, and you can't get it anywhere else but here. The only people that have it are the Jews. Why? They can distribute it, but you can't originate it. That's why. Because Nevuah was a province that Moshe Rabbeinu made sure would only be with whom? Klal Yisrael. The difference between our chachma and their chachma is that we have nevuah. We have direct transmission of the words of Hashem, which is the source of all knowledge. Yosef, the Medrash says, how did he know all 70 languages overnight? What is he, did he travel the world? As far as we knew, he never left Yaakov's side. So how did he know all 70 languages? Who remembers? Malach comes and teaches it. Reveals knowledge. By the way, who's the Malach that reveals knowledge to people? Who comes to people and tells them all sorts of things that they need to know? Eliyahu. Okay. So, and who's Eliyahu? Mikori. Who is Eliyahu?
Pinchas.
What does Pinchas do? He keeps the Jews from marrying out, from taking on for the people who are following whose advice? Bilam, who is the anti-Moshe Rabbeinu, who is the challenge to Nevuas Yisrael, because he was the one, and ends up being a Navi about Yisrael, and his words get incorporated into Torah, because there is no escape. The Nevuah is exclusively ours. And that's the Makor of our Chachma. And the Nevuah that begins with Mesiras HaTorah, which is created with which letter? Which letter is the Torah created? It starts with? Beis. So now let's understand something. All human wisdom is stuck in this world. Miserably stuck in this world. Right? What can you do already? You can break down the elements, you can build with them, you can do healing and medicine, you can do astronomy and history, music and mathematics, but you're not getting to Nevuah, correct? You're not getting into anything behind it. That's the best you can do. Okay, however, the essence of Chachma pours out from Hashem as a gift. So Chachma in the world is bottom up. You start with the world, you analyze the world around you, you analyze yourself, and then you look at the stars in the heavens, and whatever you can observe, that's what you understand. And beyond that, we don't know anything. Which is why science never talks about God. Because it's not empirical. It's nothing that can be measured. If it's not empirical, I can't use it. They're stuck in the 6 dimensions of this world. But our Chachma flows from a higher source. It's top down. Moshe Kibel Torah Misinai. Umasari